going, keep it going, keep it going, keep it going, keep it going. I've introduced Joe Filbee. Come on, Joe. Keep it going, keep it going, keep it going, keep it going.
Small, bald man follows professional comedian. This should be good. So actually, I've not been doing this very long, actually. And although I recently did a gig with a younger, more successful act than me, which is everyone. But he told me that to get anywhere in stand-up, you need to do 3 gigs a week for 3 years. That's the only way you get anywhere. At that point, I told him my plan, which is to do 1 gig a week for 30 years. He said, how's that going to work then? I said, well, with respect, have you never heard of the fable of the tortoise and the hare? He said, no, but you look a bit like a tortoise, and you've got no hair. Which felt like a low blow, but when he'd finished kind of high-fiving the other acts, and the MC, and I'm afraid the bar staff can hang their head in shame as well, frankly, because they joined in. I was able to reflect, though, and actually say to him, well, A, clearly you have no understanding of the maxims of Aesop, right? Yeah, well, yeah. B, I bet you didn't know, as a tortoise, I'll be able to live for up to 150 years by eating only lettuce, I said to him. Although actually it had gone by then, and only thought that later, if I'm honest. God, if anyone's currently being blinded by the heady mix of the stage lights and the sheen being generated by my forehead, feel free to move further back. I said the same at a gig last week, actually, and one couple did actually move further back. In fact, they kept going right to the back, out the door. They left. They walked out. It was a walkout. But interestingly, that same couple then gave me a lift home at the end of the night. Because ultimately my parents are very supportive of everything that I do. I'm single, obviously. That's why I'm doing this. Although I did go on a date last year, and it started really well, actually. And this girl said, "You're really witty." I said, "Thanks. Actually, I'm thinking of starting to do stand-up, actually." She said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, you know, if you're witty, stand-up really helps." She said, "No, you look like Chris Whitty." I said, the Chief Medical Officer of England. She said, "Yeah." Real confidence boost. I think these things are down to interpretation, really, aren't they, as well? I mean, I was on a stag do last year. I know stag do's are pretty naff, right? But this one had a fucking James Bond theme, for God's sake. Not cool. But necessarily. The dress code was tuxedos, right? Okay, so pretty sad, but it involved 20 middle-aged men, including me, meeting in the central London at midday, dressed in tuxedos. The first thing to establish is that absolutely no one looked like James Bond. Although from there, various Bond activities ensued, but there was one guy who wasn't wearing a tuxedo, and this had really annoyed me because I didn't want to wear one either. And when I asked him why he wasn't wearing one, he said, "Well, actually, in the books, Bond never wears a tux." Now, as I said to him, I'm well aware the Bond books came before the films being one of the most successful film franchises of all time. But the books came out 70 years ago. That's a full 70 years before the stag do we were on. You know, I'm pretty sure in the 1950s, 70 years before, people weren't going on stag do's based on best-selling books from 70 years before. Imagine the 1950s. Come to my stag do. The theme is Great Expectations, obviously. Activities will include a walk on the marshes, game of whist, attendance of a service at church, and then we'll probably round it all off with a bowl of gruel and some watered-down milk. The groom will, of course, be dressed as Miss Havisham throughout, for the purposes of banter, and all monies for the day payable to the best man, Mr. Pumblechook. Just not going to happen, is it, really? So close. So close. Yeah. Okay, I do speak too quickly, actually. I do speak too quickly. I'm aware of that. My brother, actually, growing up, he had a speech impediment. He couldn't say the word sausages. It just came out as fa-fa-fa. So I grew up genuinely thinking that the Talking Heads song Psycho Killer was actually an ode to pork, rather than the post-punk classic it's widely agreed to be. I need to update the apps on my phone. My phone is full of apps that are just I don't use, that I should have deleted ages ago. If you drink, you might relate to this. I've still got the Green King app, which basically means that on a night out, I can't really order you an Uber, but I can order you a lager shandy to the outside table of a pub I went to once in September 2021, lockdown tier 4. Anyway, they're not done fine?